Hey, what's up, YouTube? This is EV Comics. Welcome to another Wicked Wednesday. All right, before I get started, I'm going to go ahead and put the notification stuff out there. All right. All right. Let me go to my channel. Cool stuff. All right, we got it. Streaming now. Share. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm not going to waste any time because, to be honest, I want food. I'm hungry, so I'm going to go through this. I watched Maul Shadow Lord. Now, if you watched last week's episode of Wicked Wednesday, you would find that I went on a rant talking about Star Wars, how it was a shell of its former self. I know, stunning and brave of me to say. Neurotic and those guys would really be happy with me right now. But anyways, but the points that I made are true. The points to them are honest, and it's the fact that I grew up watching Star Wars. My friend Michael, we met playing baseball together. I was no good, but guess what? I got him home. He was at third base. I hit the ball probably once that entire season. And I got him home. I got out in the process, but I got him home, and that we needed that point to win, and that's all that matters. Anyways, he got me into Star Wars. Really, I think my first time watching Star Wars, I think my uncle brought some DVDs at my great grandparents' house while I was there for like a weekend, and I think we watched The Phantom Menace. I can't remember which movie it was, but I remember it being Star Wars. That memory is so long ago, I can't even begin to remember. But anyways. I do remember that vaguely, but mainly my love of Star Wars began with my friend Michael. So, the stunniest and the bravest. True Andrew Rowland, true. But yeah, so that my love for Star Wars has been since I was a kid. And 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago now, The Force Awakens came out. And at the time, I was 18 years old. I was like, let's go, new Star Wars. I'm excited. Everyone in the entire world was excited. And then the movie, it's fun. I remember walking out of the theater having a fun time with it. But after later thinking about the plot and discussing it with other people, it was like, there's some things about it. It's a little bit weird. The fact that Rey can just do anything, that's a little weird. And then Last Jedi completely sucked. At least we had Rogue One before that, the cushion to blow. But Last Jedi completely sucked, and the only thing I liked about that was the fake Luke Skywalker scene. I thought that scene was cool. Out of context is a really cool scene, but in context, it's just a bad movie. And then Solo came out. I like Solo. I've rewatched Solo a couple of times since it came out, and I think it's a good movie. I think it's fun. And then Rise of Skywalker, and just completely just death sentence to a franchise. However, I was renewed hope. I regained some hope when The Mandalorian came out. First season of The Mandalorian, really good, really fun, nothing complicated, nothing crazy, just fun, wholesome times. And then you get to season 2, same thing, but we got some pre-existing characters coming in, so it's no longer its own kind of standalone thing. It is interconnected with everything else, of course, because it's all one canon. But yeah, no offense, dude, but watching you get upset about Star Wars is boring. Move on. No, I am doing a review of Maul Shadow Lord, and I have to set the context of why I barely even wanted to watch this thing. Anyways, I ended up. Oh, my camera's crooked. Anyways. Long story short, I'll speed it up for you, Garfield. I'll speed it up for you. Basically, long story short, I had lost all hope because The Mandalorian Season 3 sucked. Boba Fett sucked. Ahsoka, I won't say it fully sucked, but it was not great. Kenobi was terrible. And I haven't even watched the other show they made. The Acolyte was completely one of the worst things ever made. And yeah, so this is where we're at with Star Wars right now as far as television and movies go. I have absolutely zero hype for the Mandalorian movie. I'm not going to watch it unless someone drags me. And the Maul show, the only thing that had me have a little bit of hope for Maul is the fact that I do like his character. Now, Darth Maul started all the way back in The Phantom Menace. You got The Phantom Menace here, this guy. Everyone really loved this guy, even though he had like one line of dialogue in the entire movie. He was just that cool that people loved him. Andrew says, not even interested in Mando and Grogu movie. Yeah. The clips they show were bad. Yeah, it looks bad. The movie itself, like, visually looks like just so bland and boring. And then nothing about it tells me the story. It's crazy. EVS gave Kenobi a 9 out of 10? Is he crazy? Would you see Meyer gave Acolyte a 10 out of 10? Holy crap. That is so bad. Who could have... Why would you ever do this? All I want from a Disney Star Wars is an animated Luke Skywalker show. Yes, please. But honestly, like, I think I was with you. I think I was with you maybe 8 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. But now at this point, I just don't even want him to do that. I don't even want him to touch my boy. Pause. Anyways, Darth Maul, really cool character back in '99. Everyone loved this guy, even though people hated the movie. and look, I'll make a hot take here. The prequels are not good. That's my hot take. The prequels are not good. They have good moments, and they have a good overarching narrative of how society collapses to tyranny. But they're not great movies. By the way, could you always see this stuff on his head? Could you always see this? Is this like this here? Is this seeable in the movie? I never noticed that. Anyway, but people loved Maul so much that when they made the 3D animated Clone Wars, boom, they brought him back. And not only did they bring him back, but they teased him. They teased him with Savage. Now, Savage is the actual blood brother of Maul. And basically they had him first. And then they said, hey, guess what? You like this guy? You think he's a cool Darth Maul-like character? Guess what? Darth Maul is still alive, and he's going to find him. And it was a really cool plot, really great stuff. Great episodes. Every episode with Maul in it is a fantastic episode of the Clone Wars. Highly recommend you watch them. And by the end of it, he gets captured by Palpatine because he ends up getting too much power on Mandalore. Palpatine comes down to give him a good old spanking. And it's left ambiguous. Now, in the comics, it revealed that he managed to escape after talking with Dooku. He managed to escape and get back to Mandalore, which the 7th season of Clone Wars, which came out much later after the show ended, showed what happened to Mandalore and the end of things. But yeah, that's basically what happened in Clone Wars. Let me read the chat. Their animated shows are the only good things from Disney Star Wars. I agree, except for Rogue One and Andor. Those two are really good, and the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian are good. I'll stand behind that. That's my takes. But I do agree that the animated shows are consistently better than the live-action stuff, for sure. Then Garfield says, Demi-Foot still hasn't funded their campaign in almost 4 months. It's such a shame because I think Demi-Foot is a really fun idea. It's a really fun idea. Not even halfway. Man, that's sad. I don't think they are going to fund. Comicsgate has lost a lot of backers since attacking Danger Vanessa. I don't know who Danger Vanessa is, but definitely Comicsgate has dropped off quite a bit from its heyday. It's not necessarily dead, but it's definitely harder to get stuff funded than it was 5 years ago. But yeah, I mean, I'm down to talk about stuff, but I'll try to save it towards the end because I kind of want to stay focused on the review. But anyway, so we had the Clone Wars, great Maul content. Everyone liked that they brought him back. And then Rebels comes out. Now, Rebels is right before the original trilogy. It takes place right before that. And you've got Maul back in here. and he's trying to get Ezra to be his apprentice and all this kind of stuff, and all of his plans end up falling short. And by the time of Rebels, Maul is just kind of a homeless guy. He's just a homeless guy with a ludicrous degree of skill and power in the Force. And eventually, after everything falls apart, the only thing he has left is to find Kenobi and get revenge on him. And this beautiful scene where these two are fighting each other for the last time, and it lasts 5 seconds. I kid you not, it lasts 5 seconds. Maul is someone, which I'll touch upon this at the end of it, is so just defeated by everything that he's tried to do. He's so defeated by the end of it, he just has no energy, nothing left. And Kenobi, being the much wiser man than he was 20 plus, almost 30 years ago, is so much more equipped at dealing with Maul at this point, and Maul has not grown like Kenobi has. Kills him basically, but he's alive just long enough to fall into Kenobi's arms, and he's like, the person you're protecting, the kid you're protecting, is he the chosen one? And Kenobi says yes. Now, I don't think that's technically right, but Kenobi thinks that's right, and Maul says he will avenge us. And he's talking about Sidious. And so that has been a continual thing for Maul, is that he wants revenge on Kenobi, but he wants revenge on Sidious just as much, if not more, after what he did to him and Savage at the end of the Clone Wars here. So at this point, we get to Maul Shadow Lord, and there's a couple of problems. There's a couple of problems going into this that not many people were discussing, because not many people outside of Reddit are discussing Star Wars. Okay. He will avenge us. Such a good final line for him. It's so good. Maul had the perfect ending, a great resurgence in the Clone Wars. What more can this show do? Well, here's a couple of things going into this that I was afraid of. One, we've already seen Maul try to lure a Jedi Padawan in Rebels. This new show risks feeling repetitive with this new Twilight girl. And then the second problem, we know this potential new apprentice and his crime empire that he's got, his gang that he's got, is doomed to fail, because by the time of Rebels, again, he has nothing. He has absolutely nothing. Number 3, oversaturation. I think Maul is a character that's best whenever he's used sparingly. If they keep throwing him in everything, like they threw him at the end of Solo, which is honestly the only thing that I didn't like about Solo, that I thought was just glaringly bad. The risk of overusing him diminishes his impact, diminishes his character. And what more could a series of just Maul bring to the table that the other two shows haven't already done? And then 4, Maul as a protagonist is hard to root for, because immediately after Mother Talzin, the leader of the Night Sisters, which is his own can of worms that people like or don't like, immediately after she cures him of his insanity, Maul slaughters an entire village of innocent people, including children, including the show runners specifically showed children running to the ship that was landing with Maul and Savage in it. It is a very difficult task to make people root for this character after all the stuff he's done. That's just one example. But yeah, Andrew, I'll get to the spoilers. I don't want to mention the spoilers until the end of my review, but you're pretty right. You're pretty right. So what does Shadow Lord offer? How does it tell its story, right? It tells its story with new characters. Of course, you have to introduce some new characters to build some tension in the show, because if you just have it be all about Maul or Ahsoka or something, we know all those characters are going to live going into the next show. We know Maul is going to live on until Rebels, in which he dies to Kenobi. So they have to introduce new characters, and they got Lawson, which is like the sheriff of this planet or something, of this city, of the planet at least. And the name Lawson is not at all subtle, by the way. But he wants to avoid imperial overreach. He wants to keep the law on the planet. He doesn't want any empire stuff coming into his planet. He wants it to stay free, because he knows once they come here, they're not leaving. And he's absolutely right. Basically, what ends up happening with him is is he's got this partner named Two Boots, which is a droid who is a stickler for the rules and protocol. When the Empire comes in, the droid realizes that the Empire is not sticking to protocol, so eventually he helps Lawson and his son escape. His son, Riley, doesn't really have much character other than the quicksand that he's putting in Liam's yard. He basically just he feels neglected by his father because he's so busy being, kind of the sheriff of the town, sort of. And essentially they bond a lot on this while they're on the run from the Empire. And then you get to the Jedi characters. You've got Daki, who is a very predictable, very stereotypical old Jedi master. There's nothing unique about his character at all. Like, I mean that. There's nothing unique to him whatsoever. He is probably one of the weakest characters in the show, but he is necessary to contrast with Maul's influence over his Padawan being Devin. Now, you would be forgiven for thinking that this is a male character named Devin, but no, this is a female named Devin, and she's a Twi'lek, and fans of the Old Republic, or excuse me, the original idea for the sequel trilogies, will be fans of this because she's a Twi'lek who eventually, I believe, will get the Maul painting on her face, and which I believe is a reference to that. But the Garfield, you are going crazy. I will read all of your comments, but I'll come back to it later. I'll get done with this review, and then I'll read your comments. Basically, Devin is sort of like Ezra, where she is vulnerable to the temptations of Maul, to give into the dark side and stuff. But unlike Ezra, she is. Well, I guess Ezra also works with Maul quite a bit and advocates for Maul quite a bit to Kanan and the others. So I guess they're very similar characters. They basically are the same characters. Now that I think about it, so I think the Jedi characters, especially Daki, are probably the weakest. As far as what they add to the show, as far as creativity, as far as new ideas. They are definitely the most bland. However, it's Maul that gets the spotlight and Lawson who gets the spotlight. And those two characters, I think, are far more interesting. I'll go ahead and tell you this. The first 6 episodes of the show, I was kind of bored. There's 10 episodes, and the first 6 of them, I was kind of bored. Yes, the action is great. Yes, the animation is great. It's the best of all the animated Star Wars projects, in my opinion. The backgrounds are painted. They look amazing. Every now and then, they look kind of flat. But other than those few scenes, the backgrounds look outstanding. The animation is super good. They've definitely taken more of a stylized approach to the fight scenes, especially, as opposed to their previous work. Which their previous stuff in the Clone Wars was great, but this is just elevated farther beyond that, I think. And the stakes are persistently high throughout it. I don't want to see these characters die. I want to see them escape the Empire and do what they got to do. But the plot is nothing new. The plot is stuff I've seen. I've already seen the Empire take over planets. I've already seen previous government employees turn against the Empire because the overreach and whatnot. I've seen Jedi on the run too many times now. I've seen Maul team up with good guys before. I've seen Maul operate in the shadows to build his gang before. I've seen the Inquisitors. I've seen quirky droids, Imperial douchebag leaders. I've seen all of this. All of this I have seen in previous Star Wars shows and movies, and it just even games, and it's just it feels a little repetitive up until Maul starts having PTSD, and the Legends comics and novels dive into Maul's past. Previously, this is still available. I mean, you can read it now. It's just considered not canon. But basically, all of this has been it's been done before technically, but it's never been done on screen before. And you get sort of hinted backstory by seeing what Savage goes through. Savage, again, is this guy right here, this yellow one. He goes through a lot of torment under the training of Dooku, under the manipulation of Ventress and the Night Sisters. And he is himself a very traumatized character, but nowhere near as traumatized as Maul, because Maul was a child when Palpatine took him in. And by took him in, I mean tortured him and forced him to become the killing machine that he ends up becoming in The Phantom Menace. This silent character who only has rage and has been taught to blame the Jedi for all of his anger. In reality, what Maul discovers, especially after the events of the Clone Wars, is that his true rage, it doesn't even fall with Kenobi. His true rage falls with Palpatine. And it's interesting to see that after some time, Maul doesn't really even mention Kenobi. Kenobi appears in a flashback briefly, but his main focus is his abuser, Palpatine. And it's very interesting. It's very interesting to see this portrayed. And what this does in the show is, again, like I said, it's very difficult to make Maul a likable protagonist because he murdered children. But what this does is it presents him as the immediate lesser evil of the Empire. So you've got this guy who, yeah, he turned out to be a very bad guy, but he turned out that way because of what Palpatine did. Now, of course, Maul is responsible to his own actions to a certain point, but he would not be the vicious person he is today if not for what Palpatine did to him. And it kind of, Palpatine never appears in the show other than some brief flashbacks. It's mainly just his presence that is the main antagonist for Maul personally. And that makes the narrative far more interesting. It goes from just seeing a gangster who has the Force and a double-sided lightsaber. It goes from being an action show about a gang trying to escape to being a personal hell that you get to see that Maul goes through whenever he is not actively in the fight, whenever he is forced to confront these pent-up emotions that he's been trying to just tuck down and not really deal with. And the scene where he's talking to his younger reflection in the puddle of water is very human for Maul. Very human. And it's after this that we get to see some things that we never saw with Maul before. Whenever he is fighting the Empire, whenever he's fighting the Stormtroopers, the Inquisitors inside this cave, him and his gang and Lawson, his son, and the two Jedi are all teamed up together because they're their only hope to escape. They're all doing this out of survival, out of necessity. And they can only escape two at a time. And what you see is Maul lets everyone go first, including Daki, the Jedi Master who he is opposed to because he wants his apprentice. He wants Devin. And he still lets Daki go before he does. And you see these kind of things that you basically would never see Maul or a character like Maul do. And you think, interesting. Is he turning a leaf? Is he starting to become a better person throughout all of this? But then you look at it from another perspective. And this other perspective arrives in the very next episode, the finale, which I will now say, massive spoiler warning. This is going to be spoiling the entire show from here on out. I have spoiled quite a bit already, but I am spoiling the finale right now. If you have not seen clips or screenshots posted to social media, Darth Vader appears. And I think the reason for the show existing is just so Dave Filoni can play with his action figures and make Darth Maul and Darth Vader fight each other. Because otherwise this would never happen unless you're playing Battlefront 2. And while I think that's probably the origin of why the show came to be, I think the show itself justifies itself existing because it does get to explore Maul's personal story as opposed to just making him a hateful bad guy who does what he does because he hates Kenobi or he hates the Emperor or whatever. It adds a little more personal trauma to it that makes Maul an interesting character. And Garfield, you're still going. I'll give me a second. I'll get to it. But what ends up happening here is Maul shows up, and during this final encounter, Maul is beating the crap out, or getting the crap beat out of him by Vader. Vader is just absolutely, just effortlessly dealing with Maul and the two Jedi, the Daki and Devin. They are just completely outmatched, and that should be the case. That's awesome. They portrayed Vader very well here. He does not say a single word. He is completely silent during this entire thing, other than the breathing noises. And it is a very impressive display of strength from Vader in this episode. But it's in this moment where after Devin gets separated and is fighting one of the other Inquisitors, that Maul does something that shows his true colors have not changed at all. He has been very consistently the same person throughout. And when Daki is fending off Vader, Maul pushes Daki closer to him and then leaves him for dead, which of course naturally Vader kills him. To which case Devin does not see this. She only sees that her master gets killed, and immediately after this pledges herself to Maul. And it's a consistent theme for Maul, and I think this show does the same thing, that it shows his character is just impossible. It is impossible for him to change. He cannot grow as a person. He is immune to it. He is immune to character growth. And he is emotionally stunted, mostly because of the training that he endured. But he is emotionally stunted to the point where he basically keeps making the same mistakes. What does Maul do every single time? What does Maul do every single fight he's in? With few exceptions. He overestimates his strength, or he underestimates his opponent, or both. He loses to Ahsoka after he disarms her because he thinks she can't do anything. She's disarmed. How is she going to beat me? And ends up losing to her. He underestimates Kenobi whenever he has him in that little reactor thing, circular pit thing, whatever, and ends up getting cut in half. He misunderestimates Kanan after blinding him and ends up getting thrown off the side of this pyramid thing. And time again, Maul keeps losing because he can't get past that. He cannot get past his own sense of superiority. He cannot get past his own selfish desires to betray everyone around him and to manipulate everyone around him to get what he wants. Now, what he wants is not a bad thing. What he wants to do is get revenge on Palpatine, which killing Palpatine would only be good for the galaxy as a whole. But it's his methods that set him apart from the Jedi, from the Rebellion. The Rebellion wants to restore peace to the galaxy, not necessarily by killing Palpatine, but by overthrowing Palpatine and the Empire. Maul wants to just straight up kill him, which I think would be a net positive anyway, but it is still giving into the darker influences, the darker desires that Maul has. And again, a lot of this anger is brought on by Palpatine. It's totally understandable that he wants to kill Palpatine after what he did to him. But it is still giving into the dark side. And so Maul will manipulate, he will sacrifice anyone or anything in his way to get his revenge, to get his desire. And that's essentially Maul throughout every single show. Throughout the Clone Wars, throughout Rebels, and throughout this show now. He is the same character, unchanging, just completely stagnant the entire story of Star Wars. And I think this show does a good job of that. I think it shows that very well. If anything, it keeps him consistent, which I think is very important. I don't think Maul does anything out of character. It might seem like he's changing. It might seem like he's doing something selfless by letting Daki go before him in the escape from the cave. But in reality, he just did that because if he'd sacrificed Daki, if he went first, then Devin would not ever trust him to be his master. She would hate him forever for not saving her master Daki. So he does this for selfish reasons. He does this to benefit himself so that he can get an apprentice that might be strong enough to combine with him to defeat Palpatine. Because he knows he can't do it by himself. He knows he has to have an apprentice. And I think it's another thing is another evidence of him being stuck and unable to grow is the fact that he has Savage, and after Savage dies, he has to have an apprentice. He's just obsessively, he is going after apprentices. Devin, Ezra, probably other characters throughout the years that might not get shown, might get shown later on, I don't know. But the point is that Maul is always in search of someone to partner with him to go on his journey of revenge. And that, Maul, basically, like, it comes to this. Maul is the guy who peaked in high school and will never surpass that. He will never surpass that amount of clout or fame or whatever. He is stuck there, and he is still wearing the football jersey and maybe even the helmet and the jock jacket, even though he's 45 now and overweight. You know what I mean? Like that is what Maul is. He is the guy who peaked in high school who still is trying to live life like it's the party of '88. You know what I mean? Like the summer of '88. That's who Maul is, and I think that's a really interesting character. I think this did a really good job of showing that. I think the action was good. I think the story was, while a little bland and stuff I've seen before in Star Wars, nothing terribly new. I do think it was fun. And if Star Wars is fun, it's at least doing something right. It's at least being enjoyable in the moment. You know, I would say The Force Awakens was fun. The first sequel movie was fun. Was it good? No. But in the moment watching it, it was a fun experience. And Maul, I don't think I'll have the same thing to say about it. I think Maul is a much better written story. It's unfortunate that it comes out after so many things have done similar stories to it at this point. You know, it comes out too late in the timeline, I think. But overall, Maul's journey is pretty consistent, pretty well written throughout this. And if you're a fan of the Clone Wars, and if you're especially fans of Maul, I think you'll like this show. I think you'll like it. It definitely portrays him in a different light, but under a different colored light. Maul is still the same Maul. It doesn't matter what color light you shine on him. He's always going to be the same character because that is who he is to his death. From the start to the end, he is the same character, unchanging. I think that's really cool. But anyways, 7 out of 10. I would give it a 7 out of 10. It is a good time. It is a good time. It is fun. But the sunlight just went out, and I need to turn on my light in my room because it's too dark in here. 7 out of 10. I give it a 7 out of 10. Pretty good for Disney Star Wars. Pretty good. I would say this is. I would say it's on par with some of the better Clone Wars stuff. I would say it's on par with some of that. It's a very fun story through and through. Anyway, I've got a mountain of text to read from Garfield's Bizarre Adventure. I'm trying to read the chat. I'm trying to do this, but this is a lot. Anyways, I'm going to preface everything I'm about to say. I am reading a chat from one person. I do not know the context of any of this. I am just reading it just for the sake of interacting with chat. Malin chased away and brigaded Danger Vanessa's chat, all because she originally didn't have Malin listed as a Creator of the Year nomination. Man didn't even have a book released that year. And then you have Vito stealing $120,000 from backers. I do know his book is extremely late, and the fact that Riley is making a parody book of it and will probably release it better is very similar to the Wheelers releasing Rainbow the Brute, a parody of Rainbow the Brute by Van Sciver, which also has not released that book in 6 years. So I do know that context. Camelot took $55,000 for his Ride and Die comic. Don't know anything about that. No communication. Backers are demanding refunds. Again, I don't know anything about that. Then you have EVS with $2.4 million in unfulfilled campaigns. Crazy if true. If it's really $204 million. Oh, no, not 204. $2.4 million, excuse me. It doesn't take six years to draw a 48-page comic. Yes, it does not take that many years to draw a single comic. But when you stack multiple campaigns on top of each other, on top of doing YouTube full time, I can understand why he's late. I just think his priorities are a little out of order, and I think he bit off a little more than he can chew. That's my take. That I've said that before. And then you have all the unfulfilled Cyberfrog and stuff from 6 years ago, selling them on eBay. People who backed the campaign still haven't gotten theirs. I didn't know that. That's crazy if true. James D. Anderson stole $10,000 from backers with conflict clause. Don't know anything about that. Van Sciver recently told his backers he doesn't have the money to refund. That's crazy if true. He does gamble. He does gamble a lot. I've seen that. Then you have Liam. Oh, Lord Liam. I was even debating on talking about Liam on this stream, but I don't want any of the topics to really be drama on these streams. At least not for the moment. I want to start it off to be mainly about entertainment and what I find good or bad. Just to give people, I don't know, my takes on media and to show that I can disseminate between bad and good media, so that you know that like I know what I'm doing with writing. Like I know what works and what doesn't work, and I'm trying my best to make a story that works. And so far, people love it. So anyway, still allowed in Comicsgate by Van Sciver. I don't know if he, I don't know if he's in anymore. I think he's burned too many bridges. I think even Van Sciver is shunning him at this point. Maybe not publicly condemning him, but he definitely seems to be joining in on the joke. He definitely seems to be doing that. Also, the fact that he's on the streams, like he was on a draw stream a while back, and immediately once someone else came on, Liam was kicked out. That he is making Liam into a joke. He is using him as a joke for content. He does the same thing with Frog Tony. Van Sciver is a troll. First and foremost, Van Sciver is a troll. And I thought that was kind of funny. But now he doesn't even seem to be doing that with Liam. Darren Wagner will still not have Demifoot funded, which, like I said, is unfortunate. I think that's a good project. I did not personally back it just because I don't have infinite money, and there's other projects that I think are more interesting and more worth the money. In my opinion, I don't think it's bad by any means. Please don't say I'm saying it's bad. I think Demifoot's a cool idea, but yeah, it's just not one of the comics I've backed. A lot of people have left Comicsgate. It's no longer a movement of independent creators supporting each other to make books. Now it's just EVS personal simp army. Not true. Not true. The FFS crowd, while a smaller faction, I suppose, is not a simp. Not a simp for Van Sciver. What's up, Nomad? Or Noma? Catman. I know you're a Catman. Anyway, let's see. On top of that, Mandy Summer still hasn't delivered Gemshock. I don't know anything about Mandy Summer, really. Your question is why Shane allowing EVS to use his website when he currently has 2.4 million in unfulfilled campaigns. God. Indiegogo changed their TOS policies, has destroyed Van Sciver's scheme. I do think it's a bad look. If at the very least, it's a bad look to leave Indiegogo after they changed their TOS to where you can't have multiple unfulfilled campaigns. It is a bad look. At the very least, it is very bad looking. I've heard Indiegogo is just really bad in general right now as far as like setting up a campaign and managing it. I've heard their latest update last year was just awful. Kickstarter is a little bit better. If I am to use one of the big ones, it's definitely going to be Kickstarter. But I think I will try Fund My Comic. As well. And indie crowdfund, I might, I'll probably do. Like last time I did just indie crowdfund, I think I'll do a combination of 2 or 3 different crowdfunding websites for lock-in whenever I inevitably do that. But let's see. Also, there's no update for Fearsome campaign. David Williams says he's done working for other people and that he was tired of being mistreated. Why won't he answer the backers? I don't know the context for all this, but yeah, there you go. Garfield, I let you vent in my chat. I hope you let out some steam. You were probably just like, and now you're just like you're mellowed out. You know, like I think before you might have been red in the face, but now you're like a chill kind of blue color. I think no, you're orange because you're Garfield. Which, by the way, funny username and profile picture. It makes me laugh every time I see it. But yeah, so that's basically my review of Maul and going through all of Garfield's chats. I do want to show something else real quick. Ooh, look at that. We got a Ko-Fi shop. Now, I've had this for a little bit now, but the main thing I want to show here is an update. I did a video about it, about the creation of it. I started this shortly after the indie crowdfund campaign ended, which, by the way, update for that for people who backed the campaign. There was a misunderstanding from the printers. Basically, I sent them, like they sent me the invoice. I sent them all my details. They sent me the invoice. I paid the invoice, and then basically they sent me the invoice again, and I told them, like, I've already done it. Why is this on hold? And they're like, oh, my bad, chief. So I reshared the pages for the comic. I reshared all that information, and now it is on the way. It should arrive end of this week. And so once it arrives, I will make a post about it. I will then, the post office will probably be closed. I think it's open on Saturday for like a few hours of the day, but I'll probably end up mailing it Monday. I'll probably end up mailing everything Monday, Tuesday at the latest. So hold me accountable to that. Feel free to ask me on Twitter anything about the process. Your books will be coming very soon. But yeah, I think Comicsgate should respect their backers. Exactly. I mean, that was my main goal with doing this. It was also part of the reason why I wanted to do it on Indie Crowdfund, because it's a new site. Chances are I'm not gonna get like 100,000 backers, which I didn't think I was going to anyway. But I didn't want it to be a huge number. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds funny because you're like, don't you want to make money? Like, yeah. But I also don't want to screw up my first crowdfund by having way too many backers to manage. So with any crowdfund being new, I knew the odds of it being a lot of people was going to be slim. And I was fine with that. I was totally fine with that going into it. So I also wanted to try it because it's new. And I had an excellent experience with it. I've said this multiple times in the past. Nothing to complain about. It was a great experience. The Wheelers know what they're doing when it comes to this website. And creating comics, because they make a lot of comics. But yeah, basically, I didn't want a whole lot of stuff to handle on my first crowdfund campaign. So now that I've gotten a taste of it, now that I've got that, next campaign I do, which will be Lock In, is going to be, I'm going to do it on multiple websites to try and maximize how much money I can make through it. And how many backers can get their hands on physical copies of Lock In. I am probably going to end up doing digital as well, but it won't be free. It will not be free. It's going to be a paid digital experience. But let's see. At the end of the day, Comicsgate has damaged trust in crowdfunding. I agree. All these insanely late and defaulted campaigns have burnt trust with the backers. True. That is not just a Comicsgate thing, though. That is a Kickstarter, Indiegogo problem at large. That is not unique to just this side of the internet. John Manley claims Kickstarter targeted his campaign for being Comicsgate. I guess the Comicsgate boycott of Kickstarter has failed. Again, I don't know the context of that. I don't know anything about that, but that's probably why I fund my comic and Indie Crowdfund, and I think there's gonna be another one being made. Or something like that. Back Me Bro. I've heard something about Back Me Bro. I don't know who's making that. I've heard the name, but I don't know exactly. I'm not gonna say stuff that's I don't know what it is. So, but I've heard Back Me Bro is another one on the rise. So yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested to see where the movement goes, because I do think, as far as comics go, I think the quality is here. I think the stories that are being told, the artwork that's being made, you'll find a lot of the best of it in this group. I think you'll find a lot of the best of it here. Back Me Bro is Shane Davis's project. Okay, yeah, that's probably true. That probably makes sense. But I do like the name. The name is funny. But yeah, it's what I think is, ultimately, at the end of the day, I think the best talent is here. I don't think the best organization is here. Which, whenever you remove the corporate side of things tend to be a little more sloppy. Things tend to be a little less organized. And there's a reason for that. Because, the corporations, while they might be more controlled by, stuff like, studio interference and stuff like that, and whatever the political climate is at the time, essentially what ends up happening is you lose the organization for the sake of freedom. And me personally, even with all of the unfulfilled campaigns, even with some of the scams and stuff like that, even with the drama, I still will prefer the higher quality comics that come out of here. I will still prefer that over slop. Organized slop or disorganized gems. I choose the gems. But anyway, Ko-Fi. Speaking of quality comics, I've added some bundles. Now, these are bundles that I offer at local events, places I go to sell the comic physically, and people eat them up, man. I sold out of everything 2 weeks ago, over 2 weeks ago now, at a pretty big event. I sold out of everything I had. So this is 3 for $35. This is volumes 1 through 3 of Little Miss Steel. You can get your physical copies of all 3 of them for $35. You are saving $10. $10 with that. And then we go back. Let's say you get the first 3. I love these comics. You can get volumes 4 through 6 for $35. $35 as well. So you can basically get the entire collection through these bundles. But you can also get all, well, not all 6, but 5, 1 through 5 for $50. $10 each. You are saving $25, ladies and gentlemen. You are saving $25 if you get this bundle. And yeah, man, get it while you can, because I might take them down. I might not. I don't know. I'm not gonna say. I might have better deals in the future. I might have bigger bundles. You know that kind of thing. That's the idea that I want to do with this. I want to offer better deals so that people can get this stuff physical. I want to entice you to get this stuff, because it is really good. People like Little Miss Steel. They like the characters. They like the artwork. They like the story that's going through. It feels very 2000Z. I just saw an indie. I haven't watched it yet, but I've been seeing posts about a indie animated pilot of a show that looks very 2000Z, and I'm a huge fan of indie stuff. Garfield, you say you're against slop, yet you like Disney Star Wars. Not true. I like some Disney Star Wars, the stuff that actually is good. If something is good, I will say it's good, regardless of how I feel about Disney or Lucasfilm or whatever. If Marvel makes a good movie, I'm going to say they make a good movie. I don't review things based off of a company that owns it. The Rippaverse stuff, I've said multiple times, and I'll say it again. I think Alpha Core is a good comic. Just because people don't like the Rippaverse stuff doesn't mean that some of their comics can't be good. It's not a group assignment to everything that's made under the group that instantly qualifies it as bad or good. Do I have low expectations for Disney Star Wars before I watch it? Yes. Do I have low expectations for Marvel before I go in and watch it? Yes. But I don't necessarily immediately write something out just because it belongs to Disney or the Rippaverse. That's why I did the Alpha Core 2 review. Because against everything that people said, against everything that goes into the Rippaverse stuff, everything that goes into that, I still wanted to give it a fair shot, and I was still disappointed. So at the end of the day, I try to be fair. Ahsoka destroyed Amilthron's character. Yeah. There's certain aspects of Ahsoka that I think had some good ideas, but they just didn't land the plane. I don't think they landed the plane on any of them. The only thing that's worth watching the show is the Clone Wars references. But that's about it. So with Jack Black on the new faces of Star Wars. Sadly true. What an awful episode. But again, that was Mandalorian season 3. That was season 3. That was when it fell off. The first 2 seasons I thought were good. Season 3 was bad. But yeah, I mean, like, you feel free to have the opinion that everything that Disney makes with Star Wars is bad. I don't feel that way. I feel like I have to be fair. I have to, because it's like the crowd, the Geeks and Gamers crowd, with Nerdrotic and Critical Drinker and Rippa and Heels versus Babyface, whatever. All those guys immediately, like, anytime Disney breathes, they say, "Oh, bad." And while I think you're right to make the assumption, I think you're right to assume something is going to be bad before it comes out. If you watch the thing and it's good and you say it's bad just because Disney, I think you're a little dishonest. That's all I'm saying. I think it's just a little dishonest. All right, now I'm putting you in timeout. Saying Clone Wars is terrible, I'm putting you in timeout, buddy. We're not going to go there. Is it perfect? No, but it is good. It's fun. Dang it, it's fun. But with all that being said, I think that's pretty much gonna do it for this stream. I liked Maul. I liked Maul Shadow Lord. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a little bland, but I thought its high moments made it really good. I think the heights of the series was pretty good. But yeah, fun character to watch go through all this different stuff, all these different series and stuff. Very fun character to follow. Do I want them to do anything else with him after this? No. Would it be cool to see him training Devin and then the eventual downfall of everything that he builds up again? Would it be cool to see that potentially? Yeah. But honestly, I would rather I think just not see any more Maul. I think I'm good with him because like this show was like his chance to have like a spotlight and show his character is worth having a series. And I think they justified it. I think this show is justified. I think it's justified its existence. Is it the best? No. But is it bad? No. No. I would say 7 out of 10 is pretty good. I don't want to see an oversaturation of Maul. I don't want to see him in a whole bunch of stuff because I feel like that dilutes his character. And that goes with Vader. That goes with, I don't want to see Vader in every single show. I think what they did with him in this series, I think it's good. I think it works. Nothing stands out terrible for me. I don't think they did anything bad with him. But yeah, I think it was good. Garfield, I am not defending a multi-billion-dollar corporation. You are misunderstanding my stance. You are misunderstanding Andrew's stance. I am not saying that because Disney made a show that I think is good, that it forgives everything that they've done with Star Wars. They have ruined Star Wars. But if they make a show that I think is good, I'm going to say it's good. I'm not defending Disney. I am defending the show itself. As a solitary piece of media, I am saying the show is good. Oh. Maul died in Phantom Menace. Disney has no new ideas. Hold on, buddy. Wait a minute. Clone Wars was not made by Disney. Clone Wars brought it back. Not made by Disney. So you gotta be mad at George Lucas then. You gotta be mad at George Lucas because George Lucas was involved in making that show. I'm just saying. It's not just Disney. Now you're complaining about the Clone Wars, and Clone Wars was not Disney. I mean, you have to say that the Clone Wars, that George Lucas, it made slop too. You have to say that. Which I think it's fair to say that George Lucas made some slop too, because I don't think the prequels are necessarily good movies. I think they have some good moments sprinkled in there. And I think they have a cool idea in the grand theme of it. But I don't think it lands the plane. Yeah, but Rebels ended his character so well, though. It's the perfect ending for Paul as a character. It's a really good ending. And I know there was plans to bring Maul back in the sequel trilogy. I think I read something like that. And the Twi'lek apprentice that he has in that is his apprentice in the sequels. I think that was the original idea that George had. And that would have been cool. I would have been fine with that too if it was well written. But what we got, I think, is well written. What we got with Maul, I think, is true to his character, and I think it kind of reinvented his character because there wasn't too much to do with Maul at the beginning. Yeah. The Maul and the Solo movie, I think that was a mistake. Even if they planned on it being a trilogy, which I've heard that the Solo movies were planned to be their own trilogy. Even if they planned to make him the main antagonist, I still think that was a mistake. I think that was a mistake. I think Solo is a better movie whenever you exclude the Force. By adding in this double lightsaber wielding guy, you know what I mean? I just feel like it kind of clashed with the tone of the film. Andrew says Star Wars is going to reboot the sequel series, so give me more Luke or I'm out. Don't rehire Hamill, just recast him. No, come on. I know Hamill might not be the most intelligent guy when it comes to his political takes, but he's Luke Skywalker. If they're gonna bring old Luke back and they're gonna reboot the sequels, which I don't think they'll do, but if they were to do that, come on, you gotta have Mark Hamill in it. He's just too old to play Luke. Yeah, but after a time skip, if it's supposed to be like 30 years after, I think he can still play old Luke. Now Harrison Ford is pretty old. He's like 82 years old. He's like 81 or 82 years old. I think it's too late for Harrison Ford. And that's the thing, right? This is something that I've thought about. This is something that I thought about. And I wasn't going to mention this in the stream, but now you've got me onto it. Wouldn't it be a better idea with the aging actors problem, right? With Carrie Fisher being gone, rest in peace. Wouldn't it be a better idea to have an animated sequel trilogy? This way you don't have to worry about de-aging actors for flashbacks or anything. You don't have to deal with deep fakes. You can just have people who do good voice impressions, which there are plenty of people out there. You could just have them do that, and it would be, I think, a much better experience, because I think Star Wars is really good whenever it's animated. This show has excellent animation. If they were to bring this show, this style of show, not this one, this one, if they were to bring this style of animation to a sequel trilogy, film trilogy, I think it would be great. I think visually, regardless, because the only thing that people can really defend the sequels on is they look good. They do look good. The movies consistently look pretty good throughout. But animated like this, you wouldn't have to worry about actors dying. You wouldn't have to worry about the deepfake stuff. You wouldn't have to worry about all that. And the best part is, you wouldn't have actors getting harassed as much because they look like the character, because they play the character in live action. Instead, you could just have people who look nothing like the characters doing the voices of them. They wouldn't get harassed. But yeah, I think Star Wars for a sequel trilogy, and even, I'm not saying do this, but if they were to remake the original trilogy, do it in animation. Do it in animation. Don't do a live action remake of anything. If you're going to remake stuff, do it in animation, because the Clone Wars animation style has evolved into a very beautiful style, a very unique style. And I would love to see this continue. So, with all that being said, I think that's it for me tonight. I've been streaming for about an hour now. So, once again, check out Ko-Fi. Get you Luma Steel 1 through 3 for $35, 4 through 6 for $35, or 1 through 5 for $50. And thanks so much for joining me tonight, guys. Thank you. And until next time, stay tuned for the next Wicked Wednesday, or my next review, whichever comes first.